Hey, come on, somebody. Big Rich here. Thanks for tuning into my podcast. I got a great time playing for us. We're going to talk about all kinds of stuff. If you've been to one of my shows, you know I talk about different things, about growing up in the 1900s, about being a former pastor turned comedian, my parents, being an only child, raising my kids, going through a divorce and then doing it again, and just dating in my 50s, all kinds of stuff. So I look forward to it. We're going to have a good ride together, a lot of fun, tell you people about it, and come out to a show because Big Rich Brock Comedy is coming to you real soon. You might say, well, why are we watching this thing? Well, first of all, if you're in the bracket that you grew up in the 1900s, you're going to relate to a lot of the things I talk about. Or maybe your mom and daddy were from then and you need to know a little bit more about them, how to handle them. So it could be a history lesson for some of us, or it could be just learning some things and reminiscing about life. But a little background about me. I was born and raised in Chickamauga, Georgia. If you've not heard of it, I understand. Most people know it from the Civil War. Chickamauga is 15 minutes from Chattanooga, Tennessee, about an hour and a half from Atlanta. A great place to grow up. My mom and dad raised me there. We had a lot of fun. I'm an only child. We know what that's like for some of us. We'll talk about all kinds of different stuff. But really what I want to get into today is just talking about how I got into comedy, how I went from being a pastor, going from the pulpit to the punchlines. Come on, somebody. That's a whole different ball game in your mind. But honestly, it's pretty similar. And we'll chat about it, maybe some comedy influences, and just have a good time. But I don't know about you. If you're watching this, you probably have a passion for some type of comedy, or you like to laugh, or you like to enjoy life. And for me, I remember I've never, as an adult, went to a comedy club until I was in my 50s. Never been to one. Now, I love comedy. I watched it online. I saw comedians. I can remember the first comedian I ever saw in person. I was 6 years old. It was in Chickamauga, Georgia, the Gordon Lee High School Auditorium, the first annual Down Home Days fair. And they had a guy come into town by the name of Jerry Clower. Pledge, pull up Jerry Clower so everybody can see Jerry. Now, Jerry's all about, he is the mouth of Mississippi. Jerry is a member of the Grand Ole Opry. I'm not positive. I think there's 3 comedians that are in the Grand Ole Opry. You got Jerry Clower, you got Henry Cho, and a couple others, maybe 1, 2. But I'm telling you, Jerry Clowers, he was famous for Knock Him Out, John, or Law. He says that a lot, too. But I can remember sitting in my dad's lap, man, and watching Jerry Clower, and I was mesmerized. I mean, the man can tell a story, one of the greatest Southern storytellers that's ever been around, and sold millions of records when records were a big thing. Jerry didn't get started. I started thinking about it. When I saw him, he was already in his late 40s. He got started early 60s or mid 60s, I think. But you take guys like Jerry Clower. For some of you old guys like me, Louis Grizzard, great author, great storyteller, used to write for the Atlanta Constitution, Atlanta Journal. Love Louis Grizzard. Another one that I remember, Ray Stevens. If you don't know Ray Stevens, man, he did music, and he was a great songwriter, but he did a lot of comedy songs. You remember The Streak or the squirrel that got loose in the church, that kind of stuff. Love those guys. Louis Grizzard, Jerry Clower. Then when I got about, I don't know, maybe 17, 18, I heard a comedian at my college. I went to Remedial UGA. I went to Dalton College up there in Dalton, Georgia. And a fellow named James Gregory showed up at our student center and did an hour set at lunch. And James was a used car salesman that just started doing comedy and showed up. And he was, my age now, felt like doing comedy for a bunch of college kids. But he got my attention. He had great stories. Because the thing about it, man, with comedy, there's all kinds of styles. There's all kinds, as a teenager growing up in the 1900s, my teenage comedians were, of course, Richard Pryor. Anybody that's, over, he's going to say Pryor, and Eddie Murphy. I think Delirious came out in 83. So that would have made me 15 years old. I can remember walking around when you're from Chickamauga now, we had the subdivision. That's where we lived. That's what we called it. The subdivision, because we only had one where all the kids lived. And I can remember walking around my neighborhood with a jam box on my shoulder, listening to Eddie Murphy Delirious with my buddies because my mom and daddy wouldn't let me listen to it in the house. They didn't even know I had the thing, and we're listening to it, memorizing it, and going over that set to each other and just having a time. And I think no matter what age you are when it comes to comedy, everybody's got that comedian that you rehearse their material, you listen to it over and over, and you wanted to do it. I mean, there's so many. Growing up, Don Rickles, man, Don Rickles, man, Pledge, we got to pull up Don Rickles. Let everybody see Don Rickles. Don Rickles was my dad's favorite, man. He loved Jerry Clower, but he loved Don Rickles. And Don Rickles was insult you, work the crowd. And man, to this day, I'll sit and watch YouTube, the old Carson clips of Don Rickles. Another one that I love, and I hope you enjoy, that's no longer with us, unfortunately, is Norm Macdonald. I love Norm. I love watching, listening to Norm do some of the most asinine things and take 20 minutes to get it across and laugh the whole time. See, when you're talking about comedy, it's like music, it's like art. There's a variety of kinds. So you find what you like and you enjoy it. I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I'm not looking to be everybody's cup of tea. I'm looking to find my audience. I'm looking to find the people that are into what I do. I'm a Southerner. I'm a storyteller. I'm a clean comic. I get tickled when people talk about clean comedy. They kind of look at it like, talking about Christian rock. No offense to my Christian rock stars. I love Skillet. Now, they're my kind of band, but I'm telling you, when you talk clean comedy, I like the way Dusty Slay says it, man. He's a comedian. He does clean comedy. He's a believer. But you figure that out when you come to his show or you listen to him. I don't stand up and say, hey, I don't cuss. I just don't cuss normally, unless I'm in traffic or I've had to talk to one of my ex-wives on the phone or stuff like that. But I'm telling you, you find your style, you find what you like, but then also broaden yourself, man. Don't stick yourself in one, only like this kind of comic. I like those. You wouldn't believe some of them that I listen to, and I appreciate the art form of it. There's some guys right now that are out, and you'll go, Big Rich, you don't like those guys. Oh yeah, I love these guys, and I love what they do. Creative, good cop, rad cop. Right out of Chattanooga, Tennessee area. We're just on, I can't remember, some show. There's so many of them now. I think it was a Netflix thing. But those guys, I got tickled. One of the boys or one of the fellas, I was sitting in a coffee shop in Chattanooga and I was on the phone booking a gig, working on a show that I was putting together. And this guy came up to me and says, man, you got to be a comedian. And I was like, yeah. He goes, because nobody talks on the phone like that unless they're a comedian. And we chatted for 15 minutes. We're in two totally different spectrums of doing comedy, but we both respect what each other does. We have fun and you can have a good time. There's things that I'll pay to go see. Big Rich is who's some of the people I'd pay to go see. Well, let me tell you who I have paid to go see. Dusty Slay. I've paid to go see Dusty. Nate is another. I'm trying to think because I don't go to a lot of comedy. I live it. I work it. I do this full time. My whole Facebook, social media, the whole feed, the whole algorithm is comedy. I know about every show going on from here to Pennsylvania, brother, because it's on my reels all the time. I see all types of comedy, but I love the fact that we can talk about it today and just expound on it and probably do this in the next episode or two, because we're going to bring this to you every week. We're going to bring you a podcast you can enjoy while you're traveling, while you're working around the house, while you're supposed to be working around the house, whatever it is you're up to, man, you can listen, have a good time. And I want you to tell me some of the folks, who some of your faves, who some of the people when you were growing up, whether you're in your 30s or you're in your 80s, who are some of the comics. I can remember, oh man, I'm an old man. I can remember as a kid, and I'm telling you, Pledge, you're going to have to show them this one, the Three Stooges. Man, the Three Stooges, if you don't know who they are, I don't know who raised you, man. I'm telling you, the Three Stooges were my jam when I was in elementary school. I grew up in a school that didn't have buses, so we had to get there on our own, small town. We'd get there, I'd have to walk home or walk to my dad's work, get a ride home, and then lo and behold, at 3:30, the Little Rascals came on. 4 o'clock, the Three Stooges. Now, for you Three Stooges people, I mean, here's the OG lineup: Mo, Larry, Curly. If Shimp's on, I'll watch it. If it's Curly Joe, I'm going outside to play or to go get me a snack. But Mo, Larry, Curly is the man. I was obsessed as a kid with the Three Stooges. I would talk like them. I would act like them. I would drive my father nuts because I would not stop. I did that so much that my dad started fining me a quarter every time I did one of my Three Stooges impressions. And I was broke by the end of the day, man, because that is just something I loved and was passionate about. And it's all slapstick and a lot of fun, but there's some great one-liners. Rodney Dangerfield. Oh my gosh, man. Rodney, the king of the one-liners. You watch some of his old Carson stuff, it'll get you rolling. I love those people. I love those type of comedians. I love the fact that we can talk about it for a little bit and have a good time with it. Think about some of your influences and people you like today. I mean, today, and even when I don't mean to make him sound that much older than me, but as a young adult, Jeff Foxworthy hit the scene. And when Jeff Foxworthy hit the scene, for a Southerner from Chickamauga, Georgia, man, I was like, oh, man, there is a God, and he showed up and is using this guy because Jeff Foxworthy, man, he was the biggest, the biggest. He had books, he had TV shows, he had his touring, and he never said anything vulgar. Everything was a lot of fun. I love his comedy style. Follow him. No, if you don't, you need to. And I love the story about when he came up with "You Might Be a Redneck." When he came up with that, he scratched him on a piece of paper, just a piece of note paper. And later on, they were like 10. His wife found that tucked away somewhere, and she framed it, and she put it in this very elegant frame, and it's framed at the door of their man where they live. And he's like, it doesn't look pretty, but it paid for the house, is what she said. And that's what it's amazing what comedy can do. We've called this podcast, or I call it "Come On Somebody," because that's my catchphrase. Another guy that I like, and people always, Larry the Cable Guy. Get her done. I mean, Larry the Cable Guy, a lot of fun. People say, that's potty humor. Hey, everybody's got to go, so you might as well laugh. I love that kind of stuff. And where he made it huge was when he became Mater the tow truck. His whole world changed. And I love studying the history of these comedians. And I'm big about when you're talking about comedy, yeah, man, we support local. We go for it. We go out, and we'll talk about that in another podcast on how I got started. But those are just some of the people that have inspired me, some of the influences. But the greatest influence I had in comedy was my dad. My dad, my uncles, and my grandfather, which I never called him grandfather in my life. I got a buddy, his kids call him grandfather. My dad went by granddad. And for all the grandparents, I'm not a grandparent yet, and I'm hopefully going to hold off a little while. What I've learned in that, they all say, you don't get to pick your name. The kids pick it. Oh, you can pick it. You got to give them cookies and bribe them and give them a little money here and there. Be persistent, because I ain't getting called something stupid for the rest of my life. I refuse to. It ain't going to be both. Well, I ain't going to name any of them that I think stupid, because that might be your favorite thing. So I know better to do that. But I can tell you this, granddad, I thought was pretty cool. And my mother went by Nana. Now, I was stuck with Pap and Mamaw and Papaw and Nanny. Yeah, I'm from the South. I'm from Georgia. Come on, somebody. You don't have a nanny and a mamaw and not be from this side of the Mason-Dixon line, I'm sure. But my Pap Brock, man, growing up, I don't know about you guys, but when I grew up in the 1900s, we did things still like sit down and eat dinner at the table. Man, my kids, if we did that, we were having company over, or there wasn't a ball game on TV or something, because we rarely sit down at the dinner table. We try to once a week. And we didn't have all the technology when I was a kid. So you didn't have the phones, you didn't have stuff to do. You sit there and you talk. And listen, brother and sister, I'm an only child. So dinner at my family, it was horrible because it was just me getting grilled and asked questions and talk about your day. I'm an only child. What do I have to talk about? Plus I wasn't the best student. So I didn't want to discuss that either. But going to my grandparents, we living in Chickamauga, Georgia, my grandparents lived 2 miles from us. My aunt and uncle lived a mile the other way. My other aunt and uncle and cousins lived maybe 3 miles the other way. So the whole Brock family, plus my other side of the family, my mother's side, most of them, there was a few that moved to the big city, came to Atlanta, but most of them lived there in the area. So we would have lunch at one grandparent maybe 40 times a year on Sunday. But the Brock family, 50 weeks out of the year, we're over there on Sunday from 4 o'clock during football season. We would get there to start watching the second football game, NFL game, and we would have lunch or dinner. I mean, we'd have dinner, we'd hang out. Now, let me paint you a picture. My grandparents lived in Mill Village. That's a shotgun house for you guys that don't know. You can find, I don't know if Pledge can find that one. We won't let him try that, but you can look it up. A shotgun house, Mill Village. And on a Sunday, there was myself, my mom and dad, my grandparents, my aunt, uncle, cousin, my other aunt and uncle, 3 cousins, and then everybody would bring who they were dating or who their friend buddy was. So we would have 15 to 20 people crammed into that house on Sundays. You had the dining room, and then you had the kids' room, the kids' table. We know what the kids' table is. I don't care what generation you are. You've dealt with the kids' table at some point in life. And I never moved to the adult table because I was the youngest in the freaking family. I moved to a TV tray and got to sit on the couch and watch the ball game, but I never made it into that inner circle sanctum called the adult table at the dining room because my grandparents passed, my uncle, my other uncle, we stopped getting together. But as a kid, we were there. I mean, from when I was born till I was old enough to drive, I was there 50 Sundays a week. Big Rich, why are you going on about that? Because that's where I learned comedy. That's where I learned storytelling. They had a front porch, and I got to do a show in my hometown a couple years ago at a festival, the same festival that Jerry Clower did, Down Home Days. That was my first show to attend. I got to do the show 50 years later. I was the second comedian to ever headline that thing. Jerry Clower was first. Big Rich was the next one. Everybody else was, musicians, country singers, Southern rock, all that cool stuff. So anyway, we're sitting there on that front porch. I drove by and looked at this house a couple years ago. That front porch was about 6 foot by 15, but we crammed everybody on that porch and rocking chairs, sitting on the floor, wherever. So lo and behold, here we go. I've got my dad, my 2 uncles, and my pap. And here's what they would do after dinner, or even before if it wasn't football season. They'd sit on that porch and they'd watch cars go by because my grandparents lived on a main road. When I say main road, 2 lanes and maybe a car every 15 seconds, 20, not busy. And when a car go by, one of them would say, "Hey, there goes oh so-and-so. Oh, yeah. Hey, you remember when we were in school and he did this," or, tell some story, or they'd see a car they liked, they'd talk about it. And they would sit there and hold court. and tell stories for hours. And I'm sitting at their feet and I'm listening. And for you guys, my age bracket, I don't know if you'll remember Coca-Cola bottles that were the 6.5 ounce in a glass bottle. Man, my grandmother bought those things by the cases because on Sunday we would go through. I looked it up the other day. I think in the 70s, Coca-Cola, up until 1970, maybe late 60s, for 70 years, you could buy a bottle Coke for 5 cents. They didn't raise their prices for 70 years. And then they then they raised it to 10 and everybody lost their mind. They went up, 10, they doubled. I think today I read somewhere a 2-liter from when Coke started and held their price to today, the price has increased over 5,000%. It's just crazy. But we would sit and drink those glass bottle Coca-Colas, man, get them almost icy, sit there and drink those, hear stories, talk about life. And then you'd play this game, or we used to play it. You let me know if you ever played this as a kid. On the bottom of the Coke bottle, it'd tell you where it was manufactured, where they bottled it. And it would have the city and the state. And man, Coca-Cola was getting produced everywhere in the country. So whoever was the furthest away, they won. So you'd look, might be Rome, Georgia, Chattanooga, Atlanta, Macon, from where we live. You might get occasionally Huntsville. Well, my jackass of an uncle, he traveled for work and was a salesman. And he bought a 6-pack of Coca-Cola in Pennsylvania. And he brought it back. And he would slip a bottle in on Sunday and pick it, so he would always win. And we would all be baffled. How in the world did he get one from Pennsylvania? We're all getting them from around here. Later on, I figured that out. So come on, somebody. You got to be smart on occasion. But I looked at those days, man. I look at those days growing up. And now at 58 years old, the comedy that I write and the comedy that I do goes back to me sitting on that porch, listening to my elders, listening to my dad. And I don't know about you guys, if your dad's got a sense of humor. I didn't think my dad was funny at all until I got older. Now, all my friends, when I was a teenager, thought my dad was hilarious because he was giving me hell, and giving them hell, and just in a fun way. And I just thought, man, no, man, that ain't funny. And they say, oh man, your dad's killing us. Well, I would do that to my son's friends. They probably didn't think I was funny. I remember when I told my boys when I was going to start doing comedy, they thought I was having a midlife crisis. They thought, oh my God, what's dad doing? I set them down at Jefferson's in Cartersville, free plug for Jefferson's. Y'all can give me some wings and a beer next time I'm in. We're sitting there and I'm explaining to them what I'm doing, and they're just looking at me. And while I'm talking to them, an attractive realtor that's a friend of mine that came to one of my shows, had bought a Big Rich t-shirt. She walks into Jefferson's wearing that t-shirt. I couldn't have timed it better, and my kids just look and they're like, oh my God, this is real. Oh yeah, it's real. We're 500 plus shows in already now in 4 years. It's as real as it can get. So we're going to talk more about it. We got all kinds of things to share with you in the days ahead. But I want you to think about today, man, in this podcast, comic influences, people you enjoyed, people your mom and dad enjoyed when you were a kid, and reflect on it. I bet you if you're into comedy, there's some bits, there's some truths, there's some things you've pulled from them. The greatest compliment I get is when people come up to me and they say, man, you remind me, and it's always somebody older, you remind me of Jerry Clower. I'm honored by that just because of he's a great storyteller. And that's what I try to do. Yes, I'm a stand-up, but I love telling stories and tying things together. Some of these podcasts will talk about the writing of comedy. Some will talk about all kinds of stuff. This is not just a comedy podcast. This is inspirational. This is talking about life. Man, I want to encourage you to enjoy life. I don't care what you do for a living, that doesn't define who you are, man. That's just what you do. But find your passion, find things that you enjoy doing, whether it's being a husband, a wife, a parent, a sibling. There are things in your life that will help you feel fulfillment. And if you're into, man, I got people that tell me I didn't start doing this until I was 54 years old. And man, I have people tell me that they're trying stuff, whether it's music or comedy, or they start painting, or they take on some passion or a hobby or something they just want to do. So find you some things you're passionate about, do it, and come out and see me at a show. I've got shows coming up all through the month of April. I'm going to spend a lot of time in Nashville in April. So you can catch me in Spring Hill, Tennessee on, I think, April 18th. I got a couple small shows in Nashville we're doing. I'm going to be in Irwin, Tennessee, and just think Johnson City. It's just right outside Johnson City. I'll be in Ringo, Georgia, Cartersville, Georgia. I do a lot of shows at wineries. I do a lot of small theaters, corporate events, churches. You want a clean comic that can bring you some hope, bring you some encouragement, and make you laugh. Reach out to me. I get people to ask me, when are you going to come to my area? Help me find a place. Help me book a show. Help me get a spot. We'll come do it. We'll have a good time. I got all my kids raised. I'm an empty nester. This is what I do, and I enjoy it immensely. So I just encourage you to check out bigrichbrock.com. Let people know about the podcast. Enjoy your day. And man, I appreciate you. And remember, come on, somebody.